Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. Now that we've made it through Thursday Night Football, we're going to look into the Week 11 Sunday games, starting with an early Sunday game with Washington facing off against Miami in Madrid, Spain. Looking at our team comparison, you have Miami favored on the money line with a spread of 2.5 and a total line of 47.5. Here's your averages so that we can compare them to our rankings. As we look through the rankings, over here with Washington, we have a pretty subpar team, bottom third on all rankings across the board here, basically, other than their rushing rank at 6, but everything else is pretty bad. For Miami, they also don't have great stats. About the same with bottom third here for their scoring, their offense, and even most of their defense. Their only best number comes from their allowed passing rank at 14, which is really in the end only about average. And getting into our quarterbacks, you have Marcus Mariota and Tua Tagovailoa. Marcus has averaged 14.1 fantasy points per game this season, while Tua has averaged 12.4. Marcus Mariota has 4 interceptions this season, with 1 rushing fumble, and Tua has 13 passing interceptions, with 1 fumble lost due to sacks. Moving over to your averages, as well as your breakdowns. And then I've changed things up a little bit down here, looking at their carry share, where you can compare both the carry share and the rushing yard share, just to see if they differ significantly. Since it's gotten a little smaller here, it doesn't look as well, but Marcus Mariota's probably get about, 8 or 9% of the carry share, maybe a little larger in terms of rushing yard share, about 10%. Whereas Tua over here has pretty small numbers, about maybe like 5%, and even less over here, like 1 or 2%. Looking into our running backs, you have Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Devon Achane, with Merritt getting an average of 8.1 fantasy points per game, and Devon Achane getting an average of 21.3. The only turnovers come from Krosky-Merritt with 2 rushing fumbles this season. And then I'll switch over to the averages and look at their breakdowns, which we can see more detail from before, with Merritt getting 38.5% of the team's total carry share and about 35.2% of the team's total rushing yard share. So he's a little bit more productive with his rushing yards than maybe average. And then here we can also see with Mariota getting 8.4% of the team's rushing carry share, 10.8% of the team's total rushing yard share. Over here with Devon Achane, he gets roughly 63.5% of the team's total rushing carry share, but he gets a whopping 73.6% of the team's total rushing yard share. So he gets a little bit more production from his carries than maybe the rest of the team does. Looking into our receivers, you have Deebo Samuel and Jalen Waddle. Samuel averages 13.4 fantasy points per game, and Waddle averaging about the same with 14.3. There are no turnovers that were given up by either player, so we'll just look into their averages. And then we look into their share, which is similar to the rushing share, where now we look at target share and the receiving yard share, just to see if that differs significantly. And with Deebo, you have a fairly similar with 25.9% of the team's total target share, but it only gets about 22.2% of the team's total receiving yard share. With Jalen Waddle, he gets about 25% of the team's total target share, but 36.7% of the team's total receiving yard share. So this kind of maybe signifies that Deebo Samuel is not as productive in his catching as Jaden Waddle is. And then looking into the number 2 receivers, because you have Treylon Burks out, we're going to look at instead Jalen Lane and then Malik Washington, with Lane averaging 4.3 fantasy points per game and Malik Washington averaging 7.3. The only turnover comes from Malik Washington between these two, with 1 rushing fumble. And then if we switch over their averages, you get Jalen Lane with 12.5% of the team's total target share and about 11.9% of the team's total receiving share, so fairly close to even there. With Malik Washington, you get 16.6% of the team's total target share, but a little less on the receiving share. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up here, but we can see that maybe next with the tight ends. Or if you want to go back, you can see that previously, probably with the previous wide receivers. And then, as promised, here's our tight ends with Zach Ertz and Julian Hill, with Zach Ertz averaging 9.5 fantasy points per game and Julian Hill averaging 3.3. With no turnovers, we'll go to the averages. And with Zach Ertz, you get 21.2% of the team's total target share and about 19.4% of the team's total receiving share. Over here with Julian Hill, you get 4.9% of the team's total target share and 4.2% of the team's total receiving share. And here we can see that number now with 10.5% of the team's total receiving yard shares for Malik Washington previously. So there you have the numbers for the individual stats. I think this might be a tough game to call, really, with this rushing rank of 6 against this allowed rushing rank of 26. That might be where Washington has a slight advantage. If anything, too, though, you have Miami with a passing rank of 26 against the second to worst team at stopping the pass, so maybe Miami can get something going there. But it's really hard to say what might actually work out with their game plans. Both teams have pretty terrible rankings, so I could see either team coming out on top here. So there's your numbers for the morning game on Sunday in Madrid. I hope that you found some of it useful, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe. And otherwise, leave a comment on what else you'd want to see in the future. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the other Sunday games.